Morning students, welcome to your geography chapter, our changing earth, lesson 3. Dear students, in this chapter we'll talk about lot many changes which take place over the surface of the earth on account of several forces or factors which are active on the surface of the earth as well as from the earth's interior. Now, the earth changes constantly. Rivers, lakes, and islands and mountains come and go all the time, but it changes so slowly that we hardly notice anything, and the changes directly appears in front of us. The forces that move and change the landform could be your inside the earth as endogenetic forces, or they could be outside the earth as exogenetic forces. Now, to bring these forces into shape or form, the lithosphere the lithosphere or the lithospheric plates play an important role. The lithosphere is broken into a number of plates known as the lithospheric plates. These plates move around very slowly because of the movement of the molten magma inside the earth and due to the generation of convectional cells, or say the heat cells within the magma chamber. Well, basically there are three types of plate movements. First, divergent, second, convergent, and third, transform. Moving on to the divergent plate movement, it basically occurs when two plates move away from each other. Cracks or gaps are created at the plate boundaries through which magma from the molten magma material oozes out from the mantle. When this magma solidifies, a new crust is formed. Moving on to the second type of plate movement, that is a convergent plate movement. It basically occurs due to the force of compression. Two plates move towards each other and they collide. When two continental plates collide, they form mountains. Third type of plate movement is the transform plate movement. It occurs when two plates slide past each other. The tremendous friction occurs which leads to devastating earthquakes. Now, moving on to the endogenetic forces and their detailed classification, we basically divide them into sudden forces and diastrophic forces. Let's have a flowchart understanding of the earth movements. Earth movements, they are broadly divided into two categories. First, endogenic forces and exogenic forces. Moving on to the left hand side, under the endogenic forces, we have got two subdivisions, that is the sudden force and the diastrophic forces. Under the sudden forces, we have got the subheads like the force of earthquake, volcano, and landslides. Whereas under the diastrophic forces, we have got forces which are responsible for mountain building and continent building. Then moving on to my right hand side, we have got the column for exogenetic forces. In this, we include all the forces which are active on the surface of earth, and they perform the threefold action of erosion, transportation, and deposition. All the powers, natural powers on the surface of earth, or you can say the geomorphic agents like river, wind, and sea waves. Finally, the glaciers. These are the part of your exogenic forces which are responsible for bringing shape to the existing landforms over the surface of earth. Let's move ahead with diastrophic forces. These are the forces which are very slow, and they are responsible for the slow processes that create the major features of the earth crust, including continents, mountains, ocean beds, folds, and faults. Let's have a detailed discussion on some of the endogenetic forces in which the activity of volcanoes comes. Number 1. A volcano is an opening in the earth crust through which magma comes out onto the surface. Second, the magma that reaches the earth's surface is called the lava, and as it passes through a hole which is called a vent. The top of the volcano has a cup shaped or a funnel shaped depression, basically known as the crater. You can just check here vent and the crater. Well, as per their activity, the volcanoes are basically categorized into three types: active volcano, dormant volcano, and extinct volcano. Active volcano is the one in which continuous volcanic eruption occurs, and the eruption can take place anytime. For example, Mount Etna and Mount Stromboli. Second is the dormant volcano, is the one which has not erupted for a long period of time, but it may erupt anytime. For example, we have got the mountain Fujiyama. Third category of volcano is the extinct volcano. It is the one that has no record of eruption and no possibility of eruption in future too. For example, Mount Kenya. Most of the active volcanoes of the world are located in the circular belt around the Pacific Ocean, known as the Pacific Ring of Fire. Some volcanoes are also found in the Mediterranean Sea and in the Caspian Sea, known as the Mid-World Mountain Belt. Second endogenetic force is the force which comes from the Earth's interior in the form of earthquakes. Now basically, the crust or skin of the earthquake or earth is made up of many parts called plates, or simply say the lithospheric plates. The earthquake is the result of a sudden release of energy by the movement of tectonic plates. The point where the earthquake originates inside the earth is called the focus. The point on the earth's surface which is directly above the focus is called the epicenter. The epicenter is the place where maximum destruction is noticed on account of excess of energy received from the earth's interior. Earthquake tremors are recorded by an instrument called seismograph. The magnitude of an earthquake is measured by the Richter scale. The number on this scale ranges from 0 to 9. Earthquakes of magnitude 7 or above are very destructive and cause huge damage to life and property. Well, we had a most devastating earthquake in the year 2001, which is popularly known as the Bhuj earthquake. The effects of the earthquake were highly devastating and it brought a great damage to life and property. All the destruction occurred in Gujarat and parts of eastern Pakistan. Bhuj was the most devastated town in this particular earthquake. Now moving on to the exogenic forces, basically the forces that work on the surface of the earth such as wind, water, ice and impacts of celestial objects, that is comets, etc., are called exogenic forces, or you simply say the forces which are always active on the surface or at the surface of the earth are known as exogenic forces. These forces drive the process of weathering, transportation and erosion and deposition of rocks and sediments, then finally creation of mountains and valleys, etc. Now let's define the term weathering and erosion. Weathering is the natural wearing down of mountains or all the other physical features which exist over the surface of the earth by various agents like wind, water and other elements in the environment. Erosion is the process of transporting weathered material, soil, sand, etc. with the help of various agents like winds, glaciers, water, etc. and their deposition. Now, moving on to a detailed study of the exogenetic forces which appear on the surface of the earth, let us discuss the work of rivers. As a river flows, it erodes the land into various forms and shapes, carrying away a lot of material on the way to the sea. It forms V shaped valleys, I shaped valleys, canyons, waterfalls, meanders, oxbow lakes, floodplains, levees, deltas, and estuaries. Moving on to the valley creation by a river, we have got three types of valleys to discuss. The first type of valley, which is very commonly found by rivers when it moves downhill, is the V-shaped valley. The most common is the V-shaped valley. It is a narrow valley which generally resembles the English letter V. Then, followed by this V-shaped valley, we move on to the next type of valley creation, that is the I-shaped valleys. Basically, this a narrow deep valley is called a gorge. It is formed when a river erodes vertically through hard rocks. This valley is shaped like letter I. So, gorges and I-shaped valleys, they are the same thing. Moving on to the third type of valley, which is created by the rivers, is a canyon. A wide, steep wall and usually flat bottom valley is known as canyon. One of the most world famous canyon is the Grand Canyon on river Colorado. Moving on to the next geomorphological feature which we generally see on rivers is your waterfall. The running water in the river erodes the landscape. When the river tumbles at steep angles over very hard rocks or down a steep valley, it gives rise to waterfall. For example, the Niagara Falls. Then the other features which are created are as meanders and oxbow lake. As the river enters the plain, it twists and turns, forming large bends known as meanders. Due to continuous erosion and deposition along the sides of the meander, the end of the meander loop come closer and closer. In due course of time, the meander loop cuts off from the river and forms an oxbow lake. Floodplains and levees. At times the river overflows its bank. This leads to the flooding of the neighboring areas. As it floods, it deposits layers of fine soil and other material called sediments along its bank. This leads to the formation of fertile floodplains. The raised banks are called levees. As the rivers basically approach the sea, the spread of the flowing water, or say the speed of the flowing water, decreases and the river begins to break up into a number of streams called distributaries. The river generally becomes so slow that it begins to deposit the load. Load here is the sediment what the river carries. Each distributary forms its own mouth. The collection of sediments from all the mouth of such distributaries results into the formation of a delta. It is a triangular land form created at the mouth of a river. In continuation to the same series, let's move on to the work of sea waves. Sea waves are the most important agents that modify the coastal topography. The first topographical feature which is observed at the coast is sea cliff. In places where the coast is rocky with a steep slope, almost vertical walls of rock is formed by the erosive action of sea waves. This is called a sea cliff. Wave cut platform. Gradually the cliff is worn away and recedes inland, leaving behind a flat surface called the wave cut platform. Third, the sea caves. Sometimes if the rock at the base of the cliff is weak, the action of the wave scoops out holes. which becomes enlarged to form a sea cave. Sea arches. Gradually, these caves get bigger and only the roof remains, forming the sea arches. As erosion continues, the roof collapses, leaving only the walls, which are called stacks, and further the stacks are reduced or eroded, and it leads to the formation of stumps. That is how the entire landforms are shaped by the sea waves in the coastal areas. Moving ahead, ice is also an important agent to bring changes on the surface of Earth. Ice can erode rocks and land. In frigid areas, or you can say where there is permanent snow cover, and on some mountain tops, glaciers, basically known as the frozen rivers or rivers of ice, move slowly downhill across the land and pick up everything in their path, from your small grains of sand to huge boulders. A valley thus formed by a glacier has steep sides and flat bottom. It resembles the letter U. Such valleys are called U-shaped valleys. Now moving on to this, the deposition which is created by the glaciers. The material carried by the glaciers, such as big rocks, sand and silt, gets deposited in different forms. These deposits or the glacial deposits are basically known as the glacial moraines. Wind is also an important agent of erosion, transportation and deposition in the arid climate or in the desertic region. The first landform, or say the feature which is created by wind in the drier areas or in deserts, is mushroom rock. When strong winds blow, they are laden with coarse sand particles, and these sand particles strike the standing rock mass. The rock surface is eroded to produce grooves and hollows. The base of the rock is eroded more than the top. That is very true, because the heavier sand particles, they cannot rise much high, so they erode maximum at the base. As the wind direction keeps changing, the rocks get eroded from all four sides. Eventually, the rock resembles a mushroom, hence it is called as the mushroom rock. Well, when the velocity or the speed of the wind decreases, or there is some obstacle in its path, all the material carried by the wind is deposited, resulting in the formation of sand dunes. When the grains of the sand are very fine and light, the wind carry it over very long distances. When such sand is deposited in large areas, it is called layers. Thank you. That is all what we have in the lesson, that is our changing Earth. Hope you got the key ideas and the key concept for various endogenetic and exogenetic forces which appear and bring changes on the surface of Earth.